I love gimmick Pokemon. I think they're great. Something with a little bit of spice, a little bit of sprinkling something nice to make it a little bit different, something to make it special and stand out. I think that's great. I think it's very fun. I think the ideas that they come up with is pretty unique and makes at least a Pokemon that probably wouldn't be so good stand out and maybe feel a little bit special. But to be honest, gimmick Pokemon usually aren't that good. I'm going to say the one example to this is probably going to be Smeargle, which is, of course, the gimmick is you just sketch whatever move you want. It's a painter. It sketches, it copies, and it uses. So Smeargle's probably going to be like the one example to this. But today we have Moxie Boosters. Why gimmick Pokemon are awful?
Would you believe me if I told you that these are the stats of one of the worst competitive Pokemon ever?
One of the worst? Okay, it's got really, really high defense, really high attack, very low speed. I mean, this could operate under Trick Room pretty nicely, although it does have very low HP as well. I can't imagine what this is. Obviously not Smeargle because the attack is too high. I mean, the HP and the speed is about right. But, oh, wow, I mean, what could it be? It could be a lot of things. It's a Gimmickmon as well. What is it?
I mean, look at those. 4 out of 6 of these are 130 or above. But the issue is that once this Pokemon is weakened enough, it turns into this.
Wishy-washy! That's it! I don't know, Game Freak has this really weird obsession with taking a Pokemon but below 50% HP, just making it awful. Like Golisopod switches out below 50% HP. Wishy-washy, below 50% HP, turns into the literal weakest Pokemon that exists in the entire franchise. And then we have other things like Archeops, below 50% HP, turns into Wishy-washy. Although I do love Wishy-washy. When Sun and Moon first came out, I used Wishy-washy in my first ever Nuzlocke. The first ever recorded playthrough I did of the game, I used Wishy-washy, and I thought it was bloody brilliant. I love that guy. I think he's really cool. I think he's very fun, but he's not that great. In a competitive format, probably very easily counterable.
Yeah, not so appealing anymore, huh?
Just do skill swap, you'll be fine.
This is Wishy-washy, one of many gimmick Pokemon whose entire design was based on someone sitting in an office and going, hey, you know what'd be cool? And while we've had plenty of interesting Pokemon or even great gimmick Pokemon.
Oh, Palafin is a really sick one, actually. I completely forgot about Palafin. Oh, this is going to be great. We're going to go over all the gimmick mons like Ice-Q or Mimikyu or Ditto. And we're gonna talk about them. We're gonna analyze. You ready to analyze? You ready to go deep with it?
In the past, a large majority of them just don't cut it competitively. Today we'll be exploring these many failed gimmick Pokemon and explaining why they just aren't able to function well in the competitive format of VGC.
In VGC, oh, okay. I'm glad we're talking about VGC. I actually think that VGC is more interesting to talk about than Smogon for the most part, just because of the fact that it is the official competitive format. When you go to like a competitive event, I went to EUIC recently. Everyone's playing VGC. That's the thing that really matters. That's the thing that the company advertises. Like, Smogon is fun. Don't get me wrong. I played more Smogon than I have VGC. I really don't play it much myself. I just like learning about it. I'm more of like a interested spectator than an active competitor.
If you're a singles player, some of this might not apply to you, but I'm sure you'll still find it interesting. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video on any point in time, be sure to leave a like and subscribe.
I already did, Moxie. You can't get ahead of me. I already did it.
As a matter of fact, you should really just subscribe right now, because I have a playlist full of content just like this that you can watch once this video ends.
And please do go and support Moxie Boosted because, listen, I am very blessed to be able to react to people's videos. I understand the situation that I'm in. Don't you worry. Please go and subscribe to Moxie. Those videos are fantastic. You will find them interesting if you find this at all interesting.
And if you think you're subscribed, do me a favor and double check, because only like half of my viewers actually are.
Yeah,
With that, let's get into the video.
Definitely sub.
Let's begin by explaining what is and what isn't a gimmick Pokemon for the sake of this video. You can make the argument that Regieleki is in fact a gimmick Pokemon, since
I guess so. I mean, Regieleki's thing is that it's just fast, right? I mean, so is Deoxy's speed. I think the more fun types of gimmick Pokemon are the ones that nothing else has. It's very unique and special to itself, like Ice-Q and Mimikyu. Oh, wait, hold on.
Its whole deal is that it hits like a truck if it uses an electric move, but it hits like a wet noodle if it has to click any one of its 2 coverage options.
Coverage options being explosion?
But its design isn't so married to this single novel idea that it becomes its whole identity. Meanwhile, if I were to show you Cramorant, you'd go, yo, it's the throat goat. And that's because Cramorant's whole identity is spitting on that thing. So let's begin with that one. Cramorant is a water flying type. And while this typing has given us some greats like Gyarados and Pelipper, In truth, it's not that great of a typing if the
Oh no, it's terrible. I mean, it's weak to rock, it's quad, weak to electric. I mean, electric just absolutely destroys
Pokemon
this.
isn't providing constant value or needs to tank a lot of hits.
Cramorant provides constant value, and you just look at the guy. He provides comic relief value. Just look at his face. You're like, oh, Cramorant. There he goes, cramming his rant again.
And that's exactly where Cramorant struggles. You see, Cramorant's whole deal is that if it uses either Surf or Dive, its ability Gulp Missile will activate. This causes Cramorant to retrieve an Arrokuda, or if it's below half HP, a Pikachu, which
This is great. I just love the animation. It's so
it'll
sick.
spit at the opponent if it takes any damage. If the opponent's hit by the Gulp Missile, they'll lose 25% of their total HP and have their defense lowered or paralyzed in the case of the Pikachu.
Okay, I mean, that's pretty good, though. That's solid. Just for taking a bit of damage? Does that work if you get knocked out too, though?
This would be a pretty great ability if Cramorant were able to tank a hit well. But Cramorant is rocking a measly 70 HP, 55 defense, and 95 special defense stat.
Ooh, that is essentially nothing.
Spread. Meaning that most hits, especially physical ones, will chunk it for tons of damage. On top of that, Cramorant has only 85 speed, so in a ton of cases, it'll have to tank a hit before it even gets to get the Gulp Missile ready to fire.
What if we gave Cramorant some kind of evolution? Like, we keep the gimmick the same, but we give Cramorant an evolution. It becomes like a much bigger bird. It becomes actually maybe the biggest bird, and then it gulps 2 Pikachu or 2 Arrokuda. It gets more defenses, and then when you hit it, say on the physical side, it shoots out 2, reduces your defense by 2, reduces your HP by 50%. Now that would be cool. That'd be interesting. I don't know if that would be too powerful. Probably not, actually.
The only way it can really guarantee it'll be able to fire off a missile is to run the Focus Sash and max out speed and special attack. At least then, Cramorant can smack the opponent with Surf and follow up with at best 2 missiles and at worst 1. But in VGC, you need to provide just a bit more value for it to be worth it.
Yeah, if the competition is literal Flutter main, I mean, it's going to be tough.
Yes, it has Tailwind and some pretty decent...
Oh, you're so happy, though. Hold on a second. Can we just look at how happy that Cramorant is setting up the Tailwind? It's just happy to be there. It's happy to help. It's happy to do a little bit for the squad.
Some pretty decent offensive moves, but why ever run it when Pelipper's right there with access to both Wide Guard and Drizzle to set rain?
I mean, just look at Pelipper. You could fit a kid in there.
It's not only outclassed in its typing, but its single gimmick isn't desirable enough to justify running it on a team that isn't explicitly built around it. And even then, you're
You're building around... Okay, if you're building your team around Cramorant, then something has gone horrifically wrong.
gonna struggle. I'd like to say that Gen 8 brought us mostly great gimmicks, but it's home to yet another one of our offenders in Morpeko. Now, typically, Pikachu...
I totally forgot this thing exists, I'm gonna be completely honest. This is one of the weirdest gimmicks. It just kind of does nothing. Oh, wait, what? It changes its type? Okay, and for why? And for why?
Clones tend to be outright great or just awful in VGC, but Morpeko stands out as a notably mid and forgettable option.
I can't believe that Pachirisu is classified as the great one. Well, I mean, it was. It won a world championship. You can't really go against those stats, can you?
Of course, it's got that iconic Pikachu electric typing, and you can consider the dark typing a buff to this as it grants it better offensive stab options along with the prankster immunity. Beyond that, it has access to Nuzzle for speed control and Fake Out to flinch on lead, so there's a lot going for it. But
it also reminds me of Monokuma from Danganronpa.
Its ability Hunger Switch ends up being more of a hindrance than anything. Your typical Morpeko moveset is going to be something like Fake Out, Nuzzle, Protect, and Aura Wheel. You see, Aura Wheel is a move directly tied to Morpeko's ability to complete the gimmick. Morpeko will begin every game satiated, but every other turn it'll swap into Hangry mode.
He gets a little hangers. He just needs a Snickers.
Aura Wheel's typing depends on which form Morpeko is in. If satiated, it's a physical electric move which raises the user.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't realize that this thing was 110 base power. Wow. Ooh, I'm a little impressed, actually. And it raises speed? Okay. You know what? I thought it was like 80 base power. I thought it was truly and utterly useless, but appears I'm wrong.
Speed and is a whopping 110 base power. However, it becomes a dark type move if Morpeko is hangry. So
okay, what? So it doesn't change its effects? I think it would be really cool if it changed its effect. Instead of increasing your speed, it would increase the... Is it special or physical? I think it's physical. It would increase your physical attack instead. So technically, you could use Aura Wheel, get the speed boost, use Aura Wheel again. As a dark type, get the attack boost. Boom, you've got Dragon Dance while doing damage. That'd be kind of interesting,
as you can imagine, in VGC, where many Pokemon run Protect, this is highly exploitable. Let's say Morpeko is facing down a Landorus at just 1 HP. It's like right there. You can KO it whenever you want to. But Morpeko simply can't because the Landorus just has to protect every other turn and make sure that whenever it's a dark type, Morpeko doesn't get to attack, and when it's electric type, it doesn't matter because the Landorus is immune to the attack.
You just need to run like one other move. I mean, there's got to be other moves that Morpeko can run, surely. Like, there's got to be so many moves that it can run. All right, this is easy. Just throw, all right, Seed Bomb. There you go, Seed Bomb. Just throw Seed Bomb on it and you are fine. Or Rapid Spin. There you go. Get rid of the hazards that no one ever uses in VGC. You could run Dark Pulse. Special move seems like a really bad idea, actually. Ooh, it has 95 attack and 97 speed. That's not that bad, actually. Or you could even lash out. Ice Fang. Boom. There we go. We're sorted.
You can really just play around this Pokemon super easily. There are many cases like this, and if you want to opt to just not running the move in favor of something else, at that point, should you really even be running the Pokemon? Like, this is the whole point of it.
Well, I mean, what do you run? You run Nuzzle, Fake Out, Aura Wheel, and what, Protects? Or you run Nuzzle, Fake Out, Aura Wheel, and Crunch. No, not Crunch, because you already have a dog type move. That'd be a bad idea. Seed Ball.
The one thing that sets it apart. At least it's got this cute animation when it eats, though. I mean, have you ever seen that? It's so...
he's munching. What did he just munch? Did he munch? Is that an egg? Was that a tiny
rare
egg?
to see this Pokemon in game that I didn't even know this existed until a couple of weeks ago. We might as well wrap up Gen 8 while we're talking about Morpeko.
Rune Regis. No, that's the oh, Ice-Q. Ice-Q actually makes me so sad because as you may know, if you've been around the channel for a while, that I am a big advocate for penguins. I do love the penguins. I hang around with penguins all the time. I see the penguins. Me and the penguins are good friends, actually, as you can see from this picture right here. Me and the penguins are good friends. This is me and my good friend, Shady Penguin, in fact. So I'm a huge fan of the penguin, and I just do not like this mon. I straight up wish that I did. I wish I could with the best of them over this. I wish it looked like Pingu, but this big face really puts me off. And the little cold face that he has underneath it just makes me a little uncomfortable. I feel like I need to call HR on this version of a penguin Pokemon. I mean, Empoleon, great penguin Pokemon. Very good. Love that. Absolutely wonderful. Delibird is serviceable as well, but this, no, absolutely not. Not a fan.
Ice-Q is yet another gimmick from Galar that on paper is extremely threatening, but in reality is one of the more underwhelming Pokemon of the generation.
Okay, to be fair though, the plush is very cute.
Once again, we're looking at a form-changing gimmick, only in Ice-Q's case it undergoes a pretty massive change in stats. It'll start off with some pretty impressive bulk at 75 HP, 110 defense, and 90 special defense.
I had no idea that Ice-Q actually changes stats when it changes form. That's as much as I know about this thing. No one has ever used Ice-Q. Does anyone even use Ice-Q in Sword and Shield, or is it just a random thing that you can grab? I don't even remember anyone using it. Does the Ice Gym Leader have an Ice-Q?
Although it only has 80 attack and 50 speed. This is fine though, as Ice-Q is basically designed to be a belly drum sweeper. Belly drum requires that Ice-Q sacrifice half of its health to maximize its attack stat. This would normally be pretty risky.
I appreciate that Moxie's walking on the walking pad while he's playing as well. I've got one of those little treadmills, those under desk treadmills. So I walk when I get up in the morning and I do set up my stuff for the day. I appreciate that. You know, there's never a bad time to get your steps in. Always, 10K a day, or at least maybe like 5K a day, at least.
If it weren't for its ability, Ice Face. This ability causes Ice-Q to take no damage from the first physical attack that it gets hit by.
Oh, only physical attack though? I mean, I suppose it makes sense, but if it's only physical, it's like very, very bad and not good Mimikyu. Mimikyu just has a much better typing. It has access to priority. It has fairy typing. Oh my gosh, fairy typing. It can run Swords Dance. A Ghost and Fairy is just so good. Oh god, its typing is so good.
This ability activates, it will change forms, losing its...
Oh, it has an ability too. I forgot to mention Disguise. The literal whole point of me bringing it up in the first place.
Massive Minecraft-looking helmet to gain 130 base speed at the expense of its bulk.
Wow.
At which point, it's going to be able to outspeed the vast majority of Pokemon and smack them with either Ice Spinner or Liquidation. Despite its attack stat being at a 4x multiplier, when its base stat is 80, it can still struggle to pick up KOs. Its biggest...
There's no way. There's no way. This can't be after a belly drum. If this is after a belly drum, then we should just delete this thing from the game now. We should just send Ice-Q to prison. This is ridiculous. That's not the amount of damage that it did. There's no way. If it's after a belly drum, that was helping hand boosted as well.
That its ability is highly exploitable. Note that Ice Face only activates and blocks damage from physical attacks. This was likely done because in Generation 7, Mimikyu was extremely powerful as it could block all initial damage. This was later nerfed in Generation 8, where it takes a slight amount of damage after having its disguise broken.
So you don't get to run Focus Sash and Disguise in the same set, which people used to do. They used to run Focus Sash and Disguise, and that is absolutely disgustorous.
So I can see why they went with Ice-Q only blocking physical damage. This means, though, that not only could one simply double into the Ice-Q to prevent this setup, but any special attack would simply bypass the ability altogether. This creates two forms of counterplay. You could knock it out with the stray Heat Wave, or you could just never activate the Ice Face and force it to have to work with its measly 50 base speed, making it pretty unlikely that it'll actually ever get anything done. It's probably a pretty decent low tier in singles though. Gen 7 has a similar number of failed gimmick Pokemon as Generation 8, though the one that stands out the most has to be Wishiwashi.
I love Wishiwashi. Just look at that fella. Oh, he's so big and strong. There's so many of them. Does this break the rules of Pokemon battling, though? They say you're only supposed to use 6 in a battle, but clearly there's more than 6 here. There's quite a few, actually. Although Spiritomb does have the spirits of 108 inside of it. Is it still technically one Mon? Is the ship of Theseus still the ship of Theseus if you remove each individual part of it over a long period of time? Is it still the ship of Theseus? Is it the same ship or is it a different ship now?
Like I said before, it has some pretty insane stats, all except for its HP, because its low speed is easy to work with as long as Trick Room is an option. Really, on paper this thing should be a top tier Pokemon. No Pokemon wants to have to eat a 140 base attack liquidation, but chances are you won't need to do this more than once. That base 45 HP stat actually makes it really easy to deal massive damage to this thing and knock it below 25% health, at which point the gimmick kicks in. Wishiwashi's ability Schooling causes it to be this massive powerhouse.
Oh, it's 25% health. Oh, I can't wait for all the comments to be like, oh, Pat, actually, Wishiwashi is at 25% health, not at 50% health. And I'll say, oh my goodness, you're correct, actually. How does this work with Citrus Berry? So if I get knocked to 24% health and then it activates a Citrus Berry, do I still unschool or do I not unschool?
Between 25 and 100% HP, but it changes into this thing once it's below 25%. Yep, this thing goes from a 620 base stat total down to just 175, making it the Pokemon with the absolute lowest base stat total in the game, and effectively dead weight.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Sunkern was very excited when Wishiwashi came along and said, finally! Oh, finally! I'm not the weakest that exists! There's someone out there that's weaker than me! Print the presses! Call the schools! Open the schools! Let the people back in. Some people need educated, especially me. I didn't know what 25% was and what 50% was.
I'm not kidding. Like, if it hits this form, there's not really a reason to target it down. That thing can sit on the field, you can focus everything else, and it doesn't matter. At the start of Generation 7 VGC, some players thought that this Pokemon had some potential, but they were soon proven wrong, as a Tapu Koko can very easily turn this wall of guppies into a single small fry with a single attack. Oddly enough, Gen 7 sort of had a thing for gimmick water types, as our next entry is my personal favorite Pokemon, Golisopod.
Oh, yeah, no, I mentioned this at the start of the video. Golisopod, of course. I love Golisopod. I think it's sick.
Golisopod is...
I wish it just didn't have that ability. Its ability is so awful.
Pretty solid typing in Bug Water, and some really impressive stats with phenomenal bulk, a great attack stat, and an impressive move pool. This move pool not only includes tons of utility moves like Wide Guard, but even an assortment of priority attacks including First Impression, a 90 base power bug type move with +2 priority that can only be used on the first turn the user hits the field. At the time, this was Golisopod's signature move and one of the main reasons to run it. But while its move pool and bulk are pretty attractive traits, its gimmick betrays these things. Golisopod has only one ability in Emergency Exit. This causes Golisopod to automatically switch out if it's ever at 50% HP or lower.
I always wondered why Wimpao and Emergency Exit are different abilities when it's essentially the exact same function. That, oh yeah, Wimpod is all scared and it runs away, but why does Golisopod still have Emergency Exit? Like, what is the purpose of this thing having Emergency Exit? It could have had anything else. It could have had Swarm and it would have been a really good Pokemon.
I can almost see what they were going for here. Golisopod is meant to click First Impression, deal tons of damage, get switched out, and then do it again later. This would be cool and all if this weren't the same generation that introduced Psychic Terrain to block priority, as well as the abilities Dazzling and Queenly Majesty, which do the same thing. On top of that, in doubles,
they have so many abilities that just do the exact same thing. They just want a different name on it.
It's especially difficult to use First Impression, as there's a solid chance the opponent simply fakes out your Golisopod before it's able to use the move. This ability is just so goofy, dude. Like, its pre-evolution Wimpod has the ability Wimp Out, which the game describes as the Pokemon cowardly switches out when its HP becomes half or less. And upon evolution, this becomes emergency exit, which the game describes as the Pokemon, sensing danger, switches out when its HP becomes half or less.
Ah, yes, we went from being cowardly to sensing danger. Sorry, the Spidey senses have activated. I'm actually not cowardly anymore. I'm not cowardly. Stop saying I'm cowardly. I'm not. I'm just sensing danger. Yeah, I may be running away from the battle. I mean, I'm not running away. I'm tactically retreating from the battle.
Like, dude, I don't care if you describe it as a tactical retreat now. You're literally...
Okay, sorry.
literally just wimping out, but trying not to make it sound lame. It's really a shame this Pokemon is stuck with this as its only ability, because there's genuinely a powerful Pokemon here with tons of utility a team would love to have. It walls Calyrex Ice and actually threatens it.
People are going to say I've watched this video now before. I swear to God, I have not watched this video. That was complete coincidence.
With Leech Life. If it weren't hindered by this ability which switches it out when it's below half health, it'd be a really strong Pokemon, but this strange gimmick just keeps it from fulfilling its full potential. The final gimmick water type of Gen 7 is one which you actually probably forgot existed despite how cute it is.
I'm sorry, my mind is still blown from that. I can't even think straight anymore.
Actually, I haven't thought about this Pokemon since 2018. Pyukumuku is a pure water type with no offensive moves.
It doesn't really do anything. I mean, it can be as good support mon, but again, it all comes down to the ability. Gen 7 was really all about the abilities, wasn't it?
Living Counter and Mirror Coat. With great defenses at 130 for both and a puny 55 base HP stat, these attacks actually don't hit Pokemon for much damage since they're based off of the HP that Pyukumuku lost. So, Pyukumuku has to supplement the damage output with Toxic as well as its signature ability of Innards Out. This causes the opponent who knocked out Pyukumuku to be damaged for an equivalent amount of HP that the Pyukumuku lost from the move that KO'd it.
Yeah, but the problem with this is you're going to be doing just enough damage to probably just not kill it because its HP is low, but its defenses are high. So you're going to be doing relatively good damage. It's just going to be doing not a huge, or not enough to knock it out in one hit. Even if you invest completely on your HP, you're going to you need to be hit for a lot of damage to be knocked out in one hit. And if your goal is to be knocked out in one hit so that you can do more damage to your opponents, that's not really a good strategy, is it? So you're either going to be left on red HP, which then your Innards Out does essentially nothing the next turn, and you can, maybe Mirror Coat, but relatively your HP is lower, so it's probably not going to knock out anything your opponent's got. Or you can use Toxic and then take the damage and die. I mean, this is really just good for like breaking Focus Sashes and nothing else.
Which is, once again, not that much health. For example, if a Garchomp with no HP investment managed to one-shot a Pyukumuku at maximum HP, the Garchomp would still be standing with 21 health. It's really strange that this Pokemon was made in Generation 7 with such a mediocre gimmick, especially when you consider it's a rehash of a Gen 2 gimmick Pokemon, which also isn't that great in VGC. Pyukumuku is basically just Water-type Wobbuffet, only without the ability that makes Wobbuffet super annoying in singles. Wobbuffet is a pure Psychic type with a massive 190 HP stat and very low defenses.
And that's what makes it so good. They made this well. They made this well because you take a lot of health point damage because you have low defenses, and then you deal back more when you use Counter or Mirror Coat. That's what makes it special.
Meaning that, since Counter and Mirror Coat are based on the HP the user lost, not one-shotting this thing will likely result in you losing a Pokemon, especially since switching out is usually not an option as Wobbuffet's ability is Shadow Tag, an ability which prevents all opposing Pokemon except Ghost types and other Shadow Tag users from being able to switch out unless they're using a switching item or move. So Pokemon would often be trapped in with Wobbuffet and forced to attack it, resulting in them getting KO'd.
This is funny, it's like the Rorschach, like, I'm not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with me.
While it could work in singles and even was banned because of how annoying it could be in certain situations, it just wasn't a reliable enough gimmick.
Oh, and then you heal it? Oh, wait, this is Toxic. What? Well, I mean, it's not Toxic. I don't think Wobbuffet can use Toxic.
In the doubles format of VGC, where doubling into a Pokemon or just faking it out was a pretty reliable way to deal with Wobbuffet. But where Wobbuffet gameplay could easily put a player to sleep with how boring it is, Komala just comes asleep right out of the box.
This one's kind of cool though. Comatose is a very, very good ability.
I'm not gonna lie, guys, I didn't understand how Komala's ability worked until this week. And I didn't need to know, because this thing basically is non-existent in VGC, as it's not really that good.
Yeah, I mean, it mostly comes down to its stats, though. The ability is very useful.
So, basically, Komala has the ability Comatose. This ability simply makes it so Komala is always treated as though it's sleeping, only without the downside of not being able to move. What exactly does this thing do? Well, the biggest thing is that Komala can't be burned, slept, paralyzed, or poisoned, because the game thinks it's already sleeping and you can't burn a sleeping Pokemon. Beyond that, Komala can use moves which require the user be asleep all the time. And
oh my god, you can spam snore!
Snore is quite...
Right? Look at that! This is freaking snore, dude! Look at that! Whoa, it's snore!
possibly the worst move ever designed.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, no, I don't like it either. It's not even that good.
It means that Komala is really only used for one moveset. Komala will combine the move Last Resort, a 140 base power normal move which can only be used if all other moves have been used, with Sleep Talk, a move which will randomly select another move in the user's moveset if the user's asleep.
Okay, I mean, that's fairly good. Komala has pretty decent attack. I think it's like 110 attack or something like that, so it's not the worst thing. And you could just ban it. Ban Sleep Talk into Last Resort works. So this works on like most things apart from Rock, Steel, Ghost. As long as you just don't fight any of those Pokemon, then you're fine.
The thing is that Last Resort will always fail if it's the only move the user knows. So most Pokemon don't even bother running it, but Komala can effectively bypass this by using Sleep Talk to call Last Resort, which will not fail because Sleep Talk, the only other move Komala knows, was technically used. This means that Komala is the only Pokemon in the game who can run a Choice Banded Last Resort, as the Choice Band increases the user's attack stat by 50%, but doesn't allow the Pokemon to switch moves. While this might sound kinda broken, you need to keep in mind that using only normal moves means that Komala can be walled by Rock, Steel, and Ghost types. And Choice Banded Last Resort sounds great until you realize that this dude is rocking this stat spread.
Okay, a 115 attack? I mean, that's still pretty solid.
Yeah, bro, good luck carrying the team with the bulk and speed of a teddy bear. Yeah, I guess that's
Okay,
kind of appropriate.
yeah.
You are pretty cute. But don't get me wrong, though, 115 attack is pretty good, but it's not going to be sweeping if it doesn't go first.
He has little hearts on his ears. I mean, come on, you gotta give him a little bit of love.
Also, as a side note, I want to point out that if Komala's on the field with a Darkrai is not legal in VGC, but I found this out when researching this. It takes damage from bad dreams every turn. That's just hilarious.
Really?
Like, Darkrai's literally just sitting there like, nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. I like
That's actually sick. I can't believe that. That's really, really fun. I know, I love that. I love that. Finally, Darkrai does something for the first time in what, like, 11 years?
that. It's cute, it's funny, it's stupid. But yeah, that's why Komala fails. While these gimmick Pokemon are certainly interesting, creative, and cool-looking designs, competitive threats, they are not. In most cases, the best way to fix them is to simply grant them a different ability, usually removing the gimmick and their identity altogether. Golisopod would be much stronger with an ability like Tough Claws.
I think the Gliscod gimmick is mostly first impression, though. Tough Claws would go crazy on this, though. I would love to see
But then
that.
it's not a gimmick Pokemon anymore. And I guess Komala would probably work best if it got a stat buff to increase its bulk or possibly an evolution. But let me know how you'd rework these abilities and Pokemon in the comment section down below. If you think I missed a Pokemon,
I think it's okay to have gimmick Pokemon. I think it's okay to have Pokemon that aren't that good either. I think if the entire franchise is good, then there's nothing really good.
let me know as well. But there's a chance I actually did cover them in my other video about gimmick Pokemon, where I cover the ones that actually do work. It is kind of a rough video though, as it's one of my earlier discussion vids, but feel free to check it out in the playlist on screen after the video ends. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe.
Always leave a like. Thank you so much, Moxie. This video was absolutely fantastic. As per usual, I always appreciate and enjoy reacting to a little bit of competitive discussion. I think it's fun. And like I said, please subscribe to Moxie. Link is always in the description for all the videos that I react to. And if you want to see more of my dumb face, then you can always subscribe here as well.